Hello, I'm Zonalfair and welcome to another video on the Tech Quest. If you're in the Tech Quest Discord, you'll likely already know that one of the things I've been looking for recently is a GeForce GTX 560Ti. I've wanted one for a project for a little while, and so far I've washed out 2 for 2 on the samples I have received being either very poor quality or not a GTX 550Ti. Today's GTX 560Ti falls into the latter. It's meant to be a 550Ti that I ordered from CEX, which turned out to be something else entirely. Since I now have a GTX 560Ti anyway, I might as well run it through its paces before I return it, right? The NVIDIA GeForce GTX 560Ti was released at the start of 2011. Based on NVIDIA's Fermi architecture, this generation saw significant thermal improvements over the 400 series, which is a good job really. I remember the 400 series running incredibly hot. It features 384 shaders, 64 TMUs, texture mapping units, and 32 RIPs, or raster operation pipelines. All of this feeds 1GB of GDDR5 memory through 256-bit bus. Back on its release, it was a mid-tier card with solid performance for its £200 price point. The card features DX11 support, so we do get some kind of DX12 compatibility, but that 1GB buffer is really going to hit performance no matter what we do today. There's a 2GB model of this card as well, and if you have the choice, you should naturally get that one if you can. A bit more VRAM would help in the card's modern day performance. I paid £8 for this card. Well, the 550Ti this card was supposed to be, so what kind of performance can we expect from a 15-year-old graphics card? Let's set some realistic expectations. It's not going to be pulling high performance numbers today, so we're simply going to go with playable performance rather than ultimate performance. The reasons for this are twofold. Firstly, the age of the card, and the fact that the last drivers from it are dated from 2018. But also, we're going to be dipping into the test system's DDR4 memory pool because we only have 1GB of dedicated VRAM, and that is pretty catastrophic on performance. So we're going to try to mitigate both age and hardware limitations here by carefully managing our way into playable gaming on a 15-year-old card. Today's game testing is being done by the Tech Quest's purpose-built GPU benching PC, featuring a Ryzen 7 5700X, 16 gigs of DDR4 3200MHz memory on an Asus B550 Tough Gaming motherboard, using a Gen 4 NVMe drive with Windows 11, powered by an EVGA Supernova 750W modular power supply. It's its first reappearance in a little while on the channel. Game footage recording is being captured by a secondary PC and an NZXT signal capture card, so what you see here is what you get in terms of performance. Let's get to it. First up as always is Fallout 4. At 1080p with the settings set to the lowest they could go, I initially ran this uncapped to start with, but decided pretty quickly to add in a 30fps cap to mitigate its poor frame pacing due to that VRAM limitation and the fact that we were immediately hitting the system's DDR4 pool, which is much slower to access than the GPU's GDDR5 VRAM. With the 30fps cap in place, the game remained rock solid at 1080p 30fps, meaning you can still expect a similar delivery to the original Xbox One in Fallout 4, which honestly is pretty impressive considering this is the anniversary edition of the game I am using. Now we've managed our expectations, the 560Ti is off to a good start. Moving on to Borderlands 2, this proved to be a very easy task for the GTX 560Ti. It's no surprise as this is certainly contemporary testing, but much has been added to Borderlands 2 since its release after all. At 1080p medium and capped 60fps, you'll breeze by absolutely fine on the 560Ti, which managed a consistent frame delivery alongside Borderlands 2's great presentation. Another great performer, but I did go in expecting that as I'm familiar with Borderlands' performance on the 500 series cards very well. A more modern title now, Stellaris. At 1080p 60 and using the high preset, the 560Ti delivered here as well. I loaded into an early game save and spent a little while micromanaging the start of my Galactic Empire, which turned out to be a breeze using the 560. The game itself might not be the easiest to play, but it is quite easy to get good performance out of it on older hardware, despite the fact that it is constantly updated to this day. Grand Theft Auto Legacy is next. At 720p 60 and using the normal settings across the board, GTA 5 ran okay, but had some texture LOD streaming problems that were definitely noticeable. It's not a complete deal breaker, but the combination of GTA 5's changing requirements over the years, combined with driver support cessation, means that the little things like this don't get fixed. So this being playable is entirely subjective on if you can get by the texture LOD streaming shortcomings. Hardspace Shipbreaker ran well enough. I actually played this in its entirety on the Steam Deck a few years back, and the 560Ti provides a similar level of performance to the deck at 720p 30 low that I can, and would, find this more than sufficient to play at these quality settings. There was the occasional dip on the larger ships, but this is nothing unusual for Hardspace. I found this great on the 560Ti. You can certainly drop into Counter-Strike 2 for a few casual games on the GTX 560Ti, although anything more than that will be a tall order. At 720p 60 at competitive settings, CS2 did manage towards 60fps most of the time, but there were frequent dips into the low 50s that, while not particularly off-putting, will cost you in a Twitch shooter like CS2. Again, the performance here was just good enough that you'll likely find this okay too. Section 8 prejudice now. Forgive me for the nostalgia trip on this one, but I had to indulge on the 560 Ti. This was the first game my friends and I played on our new 500 series cards back in the day, and the memory stuck with me. At 1080p 60 and using the medium settings, it played exactly as I remembered it. Smooth and looking pretty sharp. It's a game that time forgot, with it now no longer being available for sale almost anywhere, but I didn't forget it, and I had an absolute blast. Normal service resumes with dying light. At 720p 60 low, the 560 Ti doesn't always pull off 60 FPS, which is fine. It's close enough that it doesn't really make much difference in the grand scheme of things. We're about at the minimum required GPU here, and I think this kind of performance at minimum specs is honestly pretty good overall. And you could cap it halfway at 45 FPS and likely see no deviation at all in those frame times either. Supermarket Simulator is a new indie style game that works well enough, although we have had this running on a GeForce 8800 GT, so it's fairly easy on what it runs on. Stacking shelves and serving customers would see a locked 60 FPS at 1080p medium, with world traversal introducing some minor performance problems in the form of stuttering as background loading occurred. Something not unique to the GTX 560 Ti here. Another good enough performer. Alien Isolation takes its turn. At 1080p 60 medium, isolation was absolutely flawless on the 560 Ti, which saw us through with a smooth, consistent experience you can really sink your teeth into. While Isolation is an older title, it is still nearly 4 years newer than the 560 Ti, so this really speaks volumes as to the 560's capability over the years. It looks and plays incredible. Tomb Raider is certainly contemporary testing here, so I cranked up the graphics options to high at 1080p 60 and just left it at that. It's an easy one for the 560, with the added benefit of how good Tomb Raider looks even to this day. It's another solid delivery. Steam appears to have forgotten my Metro Redux cloud saves, so I went through the intro of Metro on the 560 Ti at 1080p 60 low. It still looks great even at these settings, and the 560 again had no problem keeping up the pace with the remastered version of Metro 2033. I owned a GTX 550 Ti at the time this card was out. This was the one I really wanted, and today's testing makes me wish I'd spent a little extra and got the 560 Ti back in the day. As for Metro, it was pretty good. Our final game for today, Watch Dogs. At 1080p 60 and using the medium preset, we didn't hit 60 FPS all of the time, but again, we're close enough to it that I don't think it really matters. Watch Dogs will still play great regardless of those settings, but if that 60 FPS is really important to you, then you could always nudge down a few graphical settings to get you there. I found this plenty good enough though. I quickly ran 3D Mark's Skydiver DX11 test on the 560 Ti, although given that this is the first time I have tested in this manner, I don't yet have any comparative data to put against a graphics score of 9802. Comparative data will be around in good time as I use this more going forwards in my testing. And that's a wrap for today. The GeForce GTX 560 Ti was a card I wanted back in the day. For its asking price, it delivered great performance back then, and it'll even manage a few newer titles now. Its main problems are the lack of driver support, which stopped years ago, and that tiny 1GB frame buffer that will cause you issues at higher settings and resolutions. But for contemporary gaming on the 560 Ti, it was a great card, and I still like its performance in those games today. I certainly wouldn't go out of my way to buy one, as you will be limited to mostly era-appropriate titles, but those era-appropriate titles will play great if you do. I do wish I'd picked this one up years back. Not only would I have got better performance than the £130 550 Ti, but maybe my card would have lasted longer too. My 550 Ti had a hardware failure inside 24 months that left me reeling. And as for the next time I try and order one of these cards, maybe next time I'll get a 550 Ti that'll work longer than that. But first I have to get what I ordered. After all, I've been Zonal Fear, and thanks for watching the Tech Quest. I'll catch you again real soon. Bye bye.